in the last couple of weeks, the fighting in Ukraine has become quite dynamic. It represents a sort of seesaw, a north-south seesaw. In the north, the Ukrainians have made dramatic progress in the Kursk pocket, in creating that pocket. But 300 miles away in the south, the other end of the seesaw, the Russians are making progress in the area of the Donbass, which they've been plugging away at now for well over a year. In particular, Toretsk, a small settlement, looks as if it's about to be taken. And the two places that really worry the Ukrainians are Chasiv Yar, which controls the high ground to the north, and Pokrovsk, which also controls the routes to the north and to the west. And Pokrovsk is a place of about 60,000 people. It's a hub. The Ukrainian army have used it quite a lot. They've announced in the last 48 hours that they are evacuating people from Pokrovsk. So the population are now being moved out. The Ukrainians are quite good at this. They've moved out people from lots of other places. They're much better at it than the Russians, who are trying to move out people from the Kursk pocket and making a bit of a mess of it. But the fact that the Ukrainians are moving people out of Pokrovsk, of course, shows that they are preparing maybe to abandon it or to fight for it without the civilians there. And if that turns out the way previous cases have turned out in Severodonetsk and Avdiivka and Bakhmut, then we could expect that in about a month's time it might resemble something like a moonscape. So if we go back to the seesaw map that we were just looking at, this map of the battlefield is an interesting problem because it just shows how it is that the Ukrainians have got quite a lot to concern them with. The fact is, because the battlefield is now more dynamic, the Ukrainians are really worried that Kramatorsk and Slavyansk might now be under threat. If the Russians get Kramatorsk in particular, but also Slavyansk, they basically get the rest of the Donbass. They control two-thirds of it. Those two places would give them the final third of it, and that would be a bit of a disaster for the Ukrainians. The fact is that in the last 2 weeks, both sides have seen that the dynamism in the battlefield is opening up opportunities for them both. They're both right to see those opportunities, and the winter is coming on. By November, this battlefield will freeze to some extent as movement gets more difficult. So yes, they're both right to see the opportunities. But by the beginning of November, one of them will turn out to be more right than the other.